Hey guys and gals, I told Chris Webb I'd post a video about making a splitter in your zero clearance insert. But I just want to take a second to tell you why it's kind of important. Now we all get these saws, and probably the first thing we do is take off all the safety equipment around the saw blade, the guard, which is usually an integrated splitter system and all that. If you have a new saw that has an integrated riving knife, that's awesome, because that acts as a splitter behind the blade. I actually, when I took my guard off, I converted this sort of into a quick mount splitter for anytime I'm using the original clearance plate, which is horrible. We all know that. They're loose, they don't fit well, but you know, they also allow for splintering on the sides whenever you're cutting something nice, plywood, that kind of thing. So guys like me and Chris and others make zero clearance inserts for our saws, and they're really easy to do. What you want to do is you take your original, you just take some plywood or MDF or whatever you're going to use, you trace around it, right? Then you do a rough cut, and then you just go on a router table or a trim router with a pattern bit and you cut it out to the exact size. But one little word of advice if you're doing that is, you know how loose these are. You take some tape, masking tape, right, and you go around the insert first to make it a little bit bigger, and then you can fine tune it. So you can use a sander or whatever you want to do to fine tune it. The first one takes a while. It doesn't take real long, but it takes longer than all the rest, because once you get the first one, you don't use it. It's now your template, right? And I had some tape on here to fine tune the template even. So now you've got this template that you can use with your router to just crank them out for whatever, for that blade, for some dados or whatever, or for the one I usually use with my rip blade, this one, that I put an integrated splitter in. You're going to have to drill, you know, your mounting holes, and you can put a little screw or even nail back there. That's what catches the back of the saw there. There's a little indent. But after that, you want to make a splitter, and it's pretty easy. You just take a straight edge and you mount, or you don't mount, you put it against the blade and you mark each side of the blade, right? That's your 1/8 inch or 3/16 or whatever the, however big your blade is. 3/32. Did I say 3/16? Anyway, they're all slightly different. So now what you want to do, you bring your rip fence over, you line it up to those marks right there, and you just run it through however far you need to run it. You can flip it over and do the other side, but basically I usually just finish it up with like a coping saw or something on the back side, or you can raise the blade up really high and get an almost square cut. Then you just take some hardboard or something. I mean, I suppose you could use aluminum, you could use a lot of things, but I just use this hardboard stuff that I sanded down to about the width of the blade. And you insert it in there and use either CA glue or wood glue. Not sure what I used on this, but it's been in there for a long time. That looks like wood glue. And basically it just acts to keep, it does two things. It keeps the wood from binding. When after you cut through wood, sometimes there's pressure release and it'll bind against the blade, pinch against the blade, and that'll make the blade want to throw that thing up, throw the wood up at you, or kick it back towards you. So you're either going to take it in the face or the nuts, one or the other. And the other thing it does is it helps keep the stock from twisting one way or the other, which will also throw it back and cause kickback, which is super dangerous. So that's something that's people really A lot of people don't see the importance of a splitter and don't know how valuable it is as a safety option or safety feature on your saw. That's the reason that riving knives are now mandatory on any saw made after whatever date they were made mandatory. It hasn't been but a few years. So that'll really help. Now, another reason you want to put this on your contractor saw is that I've rarely seen a contractor saw that you buy that's, you know, under $500 that has a fence that's perfectly parallel to the blade. And that's something that also is very important to help not only give a clean cut, but to stop from binding and all that stuff. So if you've got a contractor saw, a cheaper one, it's going to be prone to kick back to begin with, just because the blades or the blade and the fence are probably not perfectly parallel to one another. So that's another reason, especially on a contractor saw, to have that splitter in the back. So they're really easy to put in and make. So I would encourage anybody that's going to go through the effort to make a zero clearance insert for your saw, just to go ahead and put a splitter on there too, because it doesn't really take much longer to do. Have a good one.